Welcome to the Comic Binge, the second episode of Indie Kicks. I'm with my co-host Dennis. Which way am I doing this?
I'm not sure. Hello, folks.
I don't know.
Episode
I don't know
2.
either. And Dennis, you have something really cool to announce today, I think. Right? You have.
Well,
don't be shy, my friend.
Well, okay. So, Great Detective is finally available in print on Amazon. So,
Nice.
one more hurdle down. I'm still waiting for the Comixology version to be approved. But once that's up and running, I'll have it available, on Kindle, Amazon, Comixology, and one more vendor. I forget the name, but it's another independent kind of comic place that'll publish
awesome.
or print on demand. So
Yeah, nice. That's great.
Anytime.
And it's called Great Detective, you said.
Yes, Great Detective.
And I want for the record, not only did he write it, he also did the lettering for it, Alex.
Yeah.
And I gotta tell you,
Yeah.
Listen, this is no BS. Like I've ever telling him, like, dude, like your lettering's like really good, like because there's a lot of dialogue there. Like you put a lot of dialogue in their homes, like it's there's a lot, which is cool, and you break it down perfectly. I was like, dang, like that flows pretty well because if you,
that's
obviously,
awesome.
In comic books, you can have like these huge word balloons, and it's like, but you break it down perfectly. You got it. You got the touch.
I appreciate it, man. Yeah. It was completely. It was by necessity. I didn't have a lot of cash. I had enough cash to pay for an artist, and that was it. So everything else, I had to learn how to do it. And it worked out, I think.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's awesome.
Yeah,
lettering is an art form. It really is.
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
And
yes, it is.
And this show is my goal for the show, and just anytime we have people on or whatever, is just to honestly honor and to prop up the people who actually create like stuff and put it out there, because that takes guts and it takes a lot of work and time and effort to put things out. And when you say, like, you Dennis and you Alex here, you guys created comic books, that's awesome, or art in general, like music or whatever. But we're obviously we're praising the world of comic books here. But honestly, I think anytime you can release it yourself, black and white, color, doesn't matter. It's impressive. So I think it's rad and super. So you should be like just celebrating the fact that you completed this, or you're starting to complete it, and you got your first print comic, dude. That's so freaking rad.
Yeah,
so
that's great.
Yeah. It was it was surreal. It was surreal when I got the proofs, to approve everything was printed the right way. It was surreal holding it in my hand. I was like, well, hey, this is it was really neat.
So rad, dude.
And I don't know why it took so long to kind of get into this mindset of, why wait for a yes man? Just do it yourself.
Do it DIY, baby.
Get out in the world, do it. I didn't discover that so late in life, but I'm glad I got that now.
Yeah, and it's cool to just know how to do it too. The right format, and then getting the PDFs kind of together and figuring out the layouts and what'll work with like your with the printers, and just figuring that stuff out. It's actually kind of a puzzle. It's kind of cool.
It was a real learning curve. Getting one mistake I made up front was I didn't when I was lettering it, I didn't create the PDF in the correct format or in the dimensions. And so that
the
was
dimensions, right? Yeah, because that matters, obviously.
It does. It totally does. I didn't know that was that big of a deal, but
yeah.
So yeah,
and then there's a little bit of like the whole like how far you want the letters from the edge, and then having that all fit, and then you have to kind of account for bleed and stuff, and going beyond the edge a little, and figuring that out where it's still in the parameters, and then also like the double page splash, like that. I had one in mind, and to like make sure that page numbers added up so that it was always a double page splash like that for print. Digital is easier, but for print, it's like you can't have it on the wrong pages. Like, it makes no sense.
No,
And then
true.
sometimes if you're like, wait, I counted the pages right, didn't I? And then you got to go back sometimes and maybe move something or add a page or create a whole new page just to fit. It's an interesting process.
That's a good point. I have not attempted that yet. So,
Yeah.
you know,
it adds a whole nother thing. Yeah, it does.
I love this. We haven't even introduced who you are, Alex. What the hell? You're just like, I love it. Alex is so like comfortable. I love it. I freaking love this.
I'm down to talk about comics anytime. Yeah, it's fun. I mean, it's what I do when I'm not working. That's what I do.
Exactly. And we're not talking to your family, which I know it's
hard. I do that too. I promise.
Yeah, we do that sometimes too. I tell my wife, you do exist. It's cool. It's cool. But no, we are joined today by. I'm really excited. Like, and just to give everyone the full picture, Alex is part of Comic Book Historians, and it's a podcast and a YouTube channel. And when it says Comic Book Historians, it's not just like they did like 2-3 interviews and that's it. Like, you know, and then that's whatever. He just talks about this random comic books. No, you actually interview the creators, man. Like, and we're talking heavy hitters. You brought up Steranko, which is legit. Obviously Neil Adams. Don't forget Tim Sale. I was listening to your Tim Sale one a couple weeks ago.
Oh, nice.
Tom Brevoort was on there, and you know, people may not love Tom Brevoort, but that dude's he's part of history now. And
yeah.
I mean, it obviously the grand poobah, in my opinion, which is I still just laugh at how ridiculous it is. Jim Shooter for 8 hours, we're not talking like 2 hours here.
Yeah,
8 hours plus an additional one that you just released.
Yeah, another 4 hours. Yeah, I will admit he is a soldier when it comes to interviews. Like, he'll sit and like he'll power through it. I mean, he doesn't get up and take a break and all that stuff. Like, that's him. Like Juggernaut moving forward. Boom. It's like kind of it's impressive to me.
Okay. Yeah. No. He, you maybe I'm just curious. I'm just throwing it out there. Maybe not legacy, but like just knowing, like giving his side of the story. And I think just also for people to learn and kind of understand the process of what was going on is important to him. Maybe not necessarily his maybe his own legacy, but it seems like Marvel's legacy. That was my the common theme that I got through that interview was his kind of like, you know, here's what happened, and he admitted his mistakes, and he wanted to defend himself, which I think he has that right to. I think anyone has their side of their story, but I never got to the point. I never thought he was going out of control. It felt very, again, this is my opinion, it felt very fair, at least what he was giving us, and it felt like he was trying to give us the whole story as much as he could give it from that, you know, from that era. So
from his perspective,
exactly.
And something that I really kind of took home from that was just what is involved in being editor-in-chief. It's like a big deal, actually. I mean, it's not just a line of comics, but it's also then like translating what the guys upstairs want, you know, as far as from the corporate level, and then balancing that all the time with the creators, and then guiding the whole line and putting people in charge, and then getting new people in and all that. I mean, it makes you kind of think of, you know, and I would say that, you know, Stan Lee, as far as, is he the creator of all? No, I mean, I think Jack Kirby and Steve Ditko and all those are clearly, you know, and Stan did those things with those guys. But as an editor-in-chief, Stan, you know, Jim Shooter's, I would have loved, like, if Stan was capable of that, to get that same kind of interview from Stan Lee instead of those one-liner quips he kind of did, especially toward the end. But if you look at the old footage, he kind of spoke like the way Jim Shooter does now, like his 60s footage and some of the 70s footage. He was very like the way he would talk about management and things like that. I just wish that like later it wasn't just those one-liners, that it was like the Jim Shooter way of answering those questions. I would have loved to have Stan to have done something like that. But editor-in-chief, it's an important job. And that's something I took from that interview.
Totally. Yeah, and so I knew Alex just kind of just from that, like, you know, again, great interviewer, you know, just great content. So I'm going to say right now, go follow it on Twitter, follow it on YouTube, follow it on podcasts like Apple, whatever. Go on there, stop wasting time. Follow Alex, Comic Book Historians. It's if you love comic books, you owe it to yourself, because you're
That's
not
nice.
gonna be
Thanks.
disappointed. And I don't mean that. And there's also something you won't be disappointed about, which is why Alex is here today. Which Alex will be back at some point where we can talk even more about comic books at some point, because we'll talk for hours on this stuff. But today, Alex is here to talk about his book. Now, forgive me, Alex. I always want to say that you're. I always want to call your comic "Once Upon a Time in Mexico," but I know that's not it, obviously.
But Journey into Mexico.
Journey into Mexico.
So it's a bit of a takeoff of Journey to Mystery, the Thor. But this is basically
really?
Going about it in a different sort of way, as
This?
far as yeah, exactly. As far as like trying to get the mythological characteristics of like Central America, putting a kind of a story together that weave together like some of the real life people that were in Mexico's history in like 1830. It sounds esoteric, but actually it's really relatable because they went through a lot of the political craziness that America's going through in a lot of ways.
I did notice the parallels.
Yeah, there's definitely parallels. And I would say it's not trying to push any one political thing, just to put that out there. But definitely the people in that story certainly represent different sides of the political ideology. And despite that, there's definitely some people that you can say were probably overall good people and some that were overall bad, but not because of their political leanings, but more because of decisions they made as people. That one guy we can say is probably, although accomplished in many ways, probably a bad person. And then the other guy who really cared about Mexico and its future kind of got the rough shake of it. But it's all told through kind of the perspective of a 12-year-old boy, basically, T-Hax Tabares, who is noticing all this crazy political stuff going on, trying to make heads or tails of it. In the meantime, while the left and the right are kind of getting all the people of Mexico really pissed off at each other, like a dimensional rift kind of happens, like a tear in reality, like the stress was great. And the Incan god of death, kind of the lord of all demons, as far as Incan mythology, Supe is noticing that there's a rift going on in Mexico at the time with all this political insanity. And so then he sees that there's weakness in the dimensional walls, and he starts seducing one of the political figures in the comic. And these are all real people. And these are actually really things they did. I just mixed in the mythological stuff with them. And also there's like certain concepts in Incan mythology, like the Nagual, who is a shapeshifter, and they got their powers through a sacrifice by making deals with the devil. But in this, I put that and combined it with another real life character to account for that decision. And the sacrifice was a political assassination that happened at the time that then allowed everything to get so destabilized that then the Incan god of death's demons could start slipping through into our reality, causing, havoc amongst the townspeople. And so then the gods of life and fire, there's a few different ones. There's an Aztec one, a Mayan one, and an Incan one. The Incan one, who is an immortal enemy of the Incan god of death, kind of retreats to Mexico, and then the gods of fire unite and put their power into this lake in Mexico, Lake Chapala, and the boy kind of feels that light calling him, and he puts his hand into the lake, lifts up the power into the sky, and he's a little guitar player, so it's like this flaming guitar comes out, and then he becomes like the spirit of the gods of fire. But it's like the gods of life, and he's meant to be the avatar on Earth to counteract the avatar of death that Supe has then put into the world. And so then so they sense each other. Like, it's weird is that there's a weird telepathic link between them, but the one that's older, who is the political figure, he kind of takes advantage of the character El Fuego and how he's 12 years old. He doesn't even know how to use his powers. He figures it out. Like, the guitar strings do different things. He's traveling to like figure out clues on what's going on. And it's all following like real sequences that happened in Mexico at the time. and putting in characters like the Mexican Mothman, the Chupacabra, just characters, you know, the Mexican Sasquatch, which is called the El Cuatlacas. They're all in here, and they're all part of this big game between life and death, ultimately. And so yeah, that's what it's about. And then it all ends in the standoff in Veracruz in 1832, and this big thing happens. El Cadejo, the god of death, is there, and it's just a lot of fun. I wanted it to be fun ultimately, but maybe learn a little something. But ultimately, I just want it to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, it definitely was that, and the intricacy was very impressive.
Good, thanks.
The weaving in the fictional narrative into the real world historical events, I was really impressed with. And like you said, you know, a great way, you know, to learn some history. I mean, because, you know, I didn't know this history of Mexico. It was a good way to absorb that.
Oh, cool.
How difficult was that? How long did it take you to interweave all those elements into a historical narrative?
Yeah, that's funny that you say that. It was a weird couple of weeks. It was, you know, it's funny. First,
just a couple of weeks.
Yeah, I mean, conceptually, I mean, the script took me a little longer.
Well, right. But
like to like look everything up and like piece it and then try to pace it. You got to pace it in the story too. But the funny thing is, you ask a lot of people, hey, did you know that Mexico had an Afro-Mexican president at one point? No one knows that. It's funny. Like you ask people that, they're like, I didn't know that. I had no idea about that, you know? And there's another thing about this was to kind of highlight the plight of the Afro-Mexican in Mexico. It's a real interesting thing because in Mexico, you know, they have like three kinds of people. They have the Spanish descent people who are like the European royals kind of. Then you have the indigenous, kind of the natives. And then you have like basically the African descent. And then there's mixtures. And so there's a weird relationship between these three. And I wanted to kind of put that in there. But how did that come about? You know, my daughter was born, and so for some reason I was holding her, and then this name. Okay, so the El Fuego, the name just came into my head. I was like, El Fuego,
El Fuego.
Like I just kept saying it, like El Fuego, like it just kept going in my head.
By the way,
and I was like,
every time you hear it in the comic book, I would announce it that way. I would
yes,
like, I would
perfect.
Kind of pump. El Fuego is here.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It's a great name.
And it all started with that. That was like the first, that voice, you know, and then I was like, well, what, you know, how would that where would that piece together? And I thought, well, when was Zorro? Like Zorro's another character in Mexico. So I was like, when was Zorro? And Zorro's like 1790 to 1820 kind of. So I was like, well, what if it was a world where Zorro's dead now? And now there's like Mexico needs a hero. Like that was the idea. And then I thought, okay, so what about the decade after the end of Zorro? So that was 1830. Then I started looking at like Vicente Guerrero, the Afro-Mexican president, how he was assassinated by Lucas Alamán and Facio, and how they conspired to get rid of him. And I thought, oh, whoa, this is crazy. Like I didn't know that. And then I started looking at like, well, what about like getting like gods from Central America, and let's get them in somehow. I started looking at them, and there was all about fire and death. And then I found out that Supay, actually, the way they got Catholicism into Central America was they actually had the devil. They basically just put that name on Supay. Like Supay was already there.
Wow.
And then they put the devil on Supay.
Dang, dude.
And then when the Nagual came about, it was all about making a deal with the devil to get powers. And I'm like, well, what if Supay then, if he's the devil, then let's just call him Supay then. And then and if there's a sacrifice, let's call Vicente Guerrero sacrifice that. And then it started to like become this thing. That's when it all started to conceptually like piece together. And then I really like Jim Starlin stuff, like this whole thing of the avatars of life and death. I love Jack Kirby's Thor. I like Ghost Rider, like the Mystic Flames. I just like all that stuff.
You like the alter ego where it's two different characters, right? Like it's like two vastly different people, like the Billy Batson and Captain Marvel. And then you have Donald Blake and Thor.
Yes.
Or Eric Masterson and Thor.
Yeah. I like Eric Masterson a little more, actually. Yeah.
That was a question I had. So the relationship between El Fuego and the boy.
Yeah.
Was that was based more on the Thor mythology? Because I was thinking Shazam the whole time.
It's there's that actually, because that's clearly the thing. Like he says Shazam, and then he becomes, Captain Marvel, or you can say Shazam. But it was definitely, when I was a kid, I loved that. I saw reruns of it, but that 1970s Shazam show.
Yeah.
And so I love this idea of a kid being able to become like a grown-up and like kick ass, immediately. Like I just love that concept just from a kid standpoint. So, I mean, there's a lot of influences, a lot of comics are influenced from other things,
Absolutely,
and I would say, I mean, those are 4 prime influences to this, but really I wanted to make it like its own Mexican thing. I think like I wanted it to really be its own story, its own villains, really like its own little like micro universe kind of, and I wanted it to be like its own. So there are certain things that he does, like like his guitar strings do different things, and he kind of figures it out. Like you see little panels of like he's got the Mothman, like, and he doesn't know what to do with him, and then he just kind of like does a spontaneous bang with the guitar, and it blasts this life energy and like counteracts the waves of the Mothman, and then he gets vaporized back into the death dimension. Like he just kind of figures things out. So I like all that stuff. I would say that my editor, I have an editor on this. So I had a couple editors. When I wrote the script originally, I wanted to make sure I wasn't offending anyone too. So Gilza Cruz helped me with that. She has both, Spanish and African background in her. So I was like, yeah, this would be someone good to kind of bounce this off of script wise. Then after that, my artist, he's Argentinian, Sebastian Guidabono, whom I love his stuff. He's not really known that much in the United States, but in the Central American area, he has a huge following. And I wanted someone just from that region to do the art, to translate it better visually than I think more of a local person would be able to. I don't know. That was my guess at the time.
So, Alex, really quick, because for people who don't know, you can get this comics on Comixology, and I highly recommend it. And
Comixology, Amazon, IndiePlanet.com.
Is it for print too? Is there a print version?
Oh yeah.
I need to get the print version because
for sure. This is that's right. It is. Basically, there's a print version, and you can also get the graphic novel version on BarnesandNoble.com and all sorts of online book retailers actually. Awesome. And then you can get the 4 individual issues version of it on IndiePlanet.com and on Amazon. And then you can also get the graphic novel on Amazon too. All print and Kindle is available. Let me tell you, figuring out the print thing, which Dennis knows about, this is a big pain in the ass learning curve, and figuring out the PDFs and the dimensions and the way the printer works. But basically, then once Sebastian then did the art, and he did the lettering too. And then I actually would give him a lot of layouts, like that first 6, like his origin. I did a collage of all that stuff from, and then I sent that to him. Then as time was going on, we kind of we vibed on the layout. So we did those together. Then once that was all done, then Scott Robinson, PhD, he's an international studies major or PhD. He then edited at that point, and then like looked at the dialogue, looked at this, and like he came up with some, like, he was like, hey, you got all this stuff going on. Why don't you have a glossary at the end of this thing? And I'm like, oh, perfect, so then that's when, and then he would, things that I would write, he would say, I like the way you phrase that, but I kind of think, if you're trying to say it like this, he would do that, dialogue wise with me. And he really picked my brain, which was awesome. And it's sometimes just good to have another set of eyes
Oh yeah.
on it, as to have an editor that cares about it. And and then sometimes like we would disagree. Most of the time, we would almost debate it out a little and then be like, all right, yeah. So it was a cool creative process. And I love that I worked with the team that I did to put this thing out there. I'm happy with the way it turned out from a personal spiritual standpoint.
Yeah.
As far as people liking it, I'm glad you guys enjoyed it. You never know. Dennis may attest to this, but when you're making this stuff, you're not sure how people are going to react, and it's kind of a weird, there's a little bit of an isolating emotion there, and then you don't know till people look at it,
Yeah, at some point, definitely. I mean, I guess initially you're kind of doing it for you. And I would say, I mean, for me personally, I mean, yeah, the idea of not creating this kind of, I think it's just part of our nature. And so I want to get that out there no matter what, whether it be a story or a drawing or,
Right.
We're recording a movie or whatever. But yeah, I definitely felt that. Writing Great Detective, it was basically, it was for me first, and for hopefully an audience will find it entertaining.
Well, you can't, I mean, let's be real here. You have to, I mean, for the most part, commercialized art is fine and it can be fun, and it's what entertainment is. But I mean, art in itself is always meant to be an inspiration. What the person who creates it or is the leader behind it has to have a reason to do it besides just fun all the times. I mean, this, again, that's why you have the term, it's truly inspired, because these things are hard to just come up with. And you can't, I mean, like I said, I'm a musician. So, I used to be a musician. I don't really do much anymore, but as a musician, I always wrote for myself. I never wrote to like, I want to write a hit song and make people like this. It's like, no, I want to like it first. And that's the most important thing to me. And that's and it's anything creative, right? Whether it be comic books, movies, or whatever, you always write for yourself, and usually, and you kind of hope that people get into it. And that's kind of, the way you do it. So, and that's the thing I always tell people, encourage, like, don't write for other people to an extent, like write for yourself. And if people like it, cool. If they don't, that's cool too. Because like I was praising Dennis earlier, and you too, Alex. It's like, you guys created art, man. You guys should be freaking proud of yourselves, because who else has done that? Who else goes out there and makes comic books? Who else goes out there and makes music? I mean, yeah, there's lots of people out there, but not everybody. There's a lot of people out there.
Yeah, it's cool. One of the things that what I liked about it, from a learning standpoint, was how do you pace a story, and like put the information in there in a way that you feel would relay the best with a reader, and how a reader would feel, even like almost like from a theatrical standpoint. Like if you put it there and then you flip the page and see that, then maybe they'll feel this. Trying to anticipate the reader as you're pacing everything out. It's kind of interesting process just to begin with, from A to Z, like layout, writing a script and laying it out. Then get the panels together, right? Then the funny thing was, sometimes I would get pages back, and then I would read the same thing I wrote that the artist used, that Sebastian used to create those pages. And then when I read them with my dialogue, I'd be like, it would almost sound better if I change it into this. Like it's almost like there was something where when you actually see it in action, you almost kind of want it changed a little, because it almost feels better.
Well, it's Marvel style, right?
For sure.
Yeah, there's almost that. Yeah, because even though he drew what I asked, then when I got it back, also the excitement of seeing the pages is something else. I mean, but then seeing it, then it's like, I love, and there was a mutual, like, one thing I liked about Sebastian is like we vibed with each other on it. Like he, sometimes there was one time where the Mothman, El Fuego arrives, to the new city through his fire guitar fire portal, and then he sees this dead body on the ground. And then the first layout I saw of that body from Sebastian, I wasn't too excited about it. And I said, maybe let's do this. And so then I would lie down on the ground and then have my phone. I'd be like, and I would make this thing of looking into this like this, and I would send it to him. He's like, oh yes, of course. And then he would, then do that, and then he do something with that, and it's just a lot
probably
of fun,
even crazier, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
And there was one scene that was like kind of wild, where El Fuego's hand goes on Picaluga's face on the boat, and then he does this, like the mystical fires go into his mind, and El Fuego can read his future and then put those images in his head. And there's this layout with his future up here and the hand like this, but then zoomed in again. And what for that, I like took different pictures of like this and that. And then I sent it to him, and he goes, yes. And then I'm going to do this up here and have his, and then when you see the final thing, you're like, dude, this is like actually kind of better than what I thought already.
Yeah. So Dennis, I had a couple questions for Alex, but I want to let you go first before I start diving in there. So go ahead. You might even ask one of the things I'm going to ask. Go ahead.
No. I was just gonna back up what Alex was saying. The interplay between writer and artist during the phase of creating is it's a special thing. The artist definitely adds to what you write. Right. Whether they interpret it a certain way or a different way, or make minute changes here and there, it all goes into the fluid nature of comic creation, which is it's really special. And and like Alex said, when you get it back and you see it realized, brought to life, it's a special feeling.
It's a great feeling.
Everything you said, it's a great process. It's a fun, and it's always shifting, and that's just really cool. I really like that.
Yeah, it's almost like it's weird, but it's like you're creatively conceiving a child with each other.
No, that's exactly what it is, bro. No, it is because you're creating. And then again, art is like children. I mean, look at George Lucas, right? Like Star Wars. Yeah. It was hard for him to give it up. That's why he held on to it for so long, because it was like a child. It's so crazy to think that, like, really quick on a George Lucas rant here, or just quick rant. No, just hold on. This is interesting, because he wasn't able to conceive his own children. He adopted all his children. He wasn't able to have his own children just for himself.
That's true.
Which I didn't know until I was reading. I was like, oh, I knew he adopted, but it was because he couldn't.
I think his first daughter he adopted. It was with his wife, but then they divorced. At the end of Return of the Jedi. Yeah, but he still looked after her and then enjoyed it.
He adopted 2 more kids, and then, but what's crazy is that Star Wars, he said was like a child, and that's literally something he conceived. Like, he created that. I mean, obviously with help with other people, like with Ralph McQuarrie. We go on for hours, but the thing is, it's like he created that. That is literally his creation. Like, he conceived those ideas, and like, that's his child. So it's interesting. It is very much like that, where your art you create, it becomes that child, if you will, and you become protective of it. And that's kind of and also you love it. And when you see those moments of like, it's even better than I imagined, which I can see as a father of a 1-year-old. It's true transparency here. I've always wanted to be a father, and when we finally got our daughter, I thought being a dad would be amazing. It's even better than I thought it was. Being a dad is the best thing in the universe. It really is. And so I use that to art. When you get those pages back, or you get that song back, or whatever it is, it's very much like it becomes like, oh my God, like my child is like, this is even better than I anticipated. With my taste with music, it was always like, oh, it could be better, but whatever. But Alex, a couple of things I wanted to ask you, because creating comics is just, it's crazy. The first question is, I guess 2-parter. Okay. So just answering this. Did you write comics before, 1? And 2, if you didn't or have before or whatever, how did you prepare to write? Because you've read comics for a long time. You're like me and Dennis. We've read comics our whole life pretty much. Yeah. And so and usually you can, it doesn't mean you, but I think even Jim Shooter will even tell you, the guy who created the Black Suit Spider-Man, they tried to give him a shot and he could not write, or DeFalco. I think DeFalco told me he couldn't, oh, you're good. You're good. You got a little one. Oh, wait. I thought for some reason one of your kids was in there and you're just like, hold on a second. Like, oh no, go away. No, it's all good. So, but anyway, attaboy, attafox. But yeah, he doesn't admire, which by the way, I don't blame him for admiring your comics back there, Holmes. I don't blame you. But I guess my question is, did you actually write comics before? And then if you didn't, how did you prepare to write comics? Because like I said, just because you read comics since you were a kid doesn't mean you're going to be good at it. It does help. Right.
Yeah.
But how did you?
Well, every aspect of this was a first time for me. There was nothing seasoned. There was nothing seasoned about any step in this. This was like, I want to do this. You know, once the concepts came together, so writing the first like intro page, you know, the first 6 pages where he gets his powers, or the first 5 pages, that was like the initial thing, and just doing that first 5 pages was like, you know, that was, once I did that, I thought, okay, I think I can do, you know, 80 more of these, and now I have to write the rest of this, is kind of what happened. Because those first 6 pages, or those first 5 pages, you can tell it's almost like different than the rest of it. It's establishing and setting up all the figures and the players in the story, but then actually putting the journey out and laying it out and sitting there and typing and thinking, okay, well, I want to use these guys and I want to use these places and these events, and then putting it together and pacing it. That was all completely just in my own mind, pioneered internally. I didn't have any experience. I just put it together in a way I thought, well, how are movies structured, and how is a TV series, a season structured, and how is a story arc in a trade paperback kind of structured? I had to kind of think about those steps. And then once that I started thinking that way, I thought, okay, I think I can make this phase, that phase, and put that phase here. So I had the layout, and then I had to fill in script once I laid it all out.
Sure. Yeah.
So that way it functioned better when I did it like that. So I didn't just kind of freeball and write in a linear way. I actually kind of thought, I want to put these characters, this event, and this in this section, this and they almost kind of read, if you look at it, they almost kind of read like, even though they're chapters, they almost read like a anthology series. Like,
no, I see that. Yeah.
You know what I mean? It's almost like there's 6 pages of this, 6 pages of that. He finds this freak of the week here, and then this is happening. But then meanwhile, there's like an overall story of all the characters through that, to keep it intertwined. But it was almost like an anthology. But I thought, well, if I do it like that, then, and it brought up some funny, weird problems. Like, well, if I'm going to have this as 4 single issues, then each issue has to have kind of the same number of pages. And so then I had to almost think, okay, well, that means this issue needs 2 pages, and that issue needs 1 page.
Yeah.
This third issue actually needs 3 more pages.
3, yeah.
So then I thought, okay, well, what's missing from the story so far that I can piece in extra layers to the story
naturally,
so
right? Yeah.
So ultimately what I did was the president, the guy that became president after
Roy
Guerrero
Thomas
died, Bustamante, well, it was his second in command, or his counselor, who was the evil Nagual that got the other guy killed. And so what I did was put more discussions between them and him seducing that guy, the president, and getting the president almost more and more deranged. Like he almost came in, like he was kind of like this right-wing president who almost actually had in his own way, his own, what he thought was a positive vision, but it got corrupted by his second in command. And it turned into almost this nightmarish, brutalistic, fascist thing. And that's not how we wanted it initially, but it got corrupted by that guy. So I wanted to put more of their discussions in there and how like this guy really wanted this good thing. And then that got corrupted because he had the wrong guy as his counselor. And so I thought I want that in here because I meant to have it in here, but I don't have enough of it. So I'm going to have one page that has a piece of that, another couple of pages here. Then that's going to actually help me set up the battle at the end. So that way it's not just a series of events, but one thing now will foreshadow the other thing, and this thing will foreshadow this other thing, just to fill in pages, but I wanted it all to work, as 4 issues or as a trade graphic novel kind of thing.
Dennis?
No, I mean, I concur. It's a rough outline process first, and then just fleshing out. You asked, how'd you know what to do? But like Alex said, I think you discover in the process of doing. I don't think there's any one special way. Like, for example, some comics will have extras, like they'll show the actual script to the actual book, or you'll see examples in comic journals. You get examples of Alex Moore, who details every single shred of the panel. Like 18 pages
Alan
for
Moore.
one panel. Yeah.
You said Alex Moore. I thought it was funny. It's funny.
Did I say Alex Moore?
Oh,
Yes,
Alan Moore, you meant?
Yeah, Alan Moore. Yeah.
Did I say Alex Moore?
I was like, Alex
Alan
Moore.
Moore.
Who's this?
I'm like,
Yeah,
is that his
Moore.
cousin? Is that the guy who wrote the Second Men?
His little known nephew.
Alan Moore. Yeah, Alan Moore. Now his writing, I mean, that's like another planet. I mean, there's so much going on with his scripts. I mean, I think his books now are like 1,000 pages. I mean, there's a lot going on with him.
Yeah. So detailed, so meticulous. So obviously you have that end of the spectrum. And then I think I saw an example. I forgot where I saw it, but Mark Millar, or is it Miller?
Yeah.
I forgot. I don't know how to pronounce it.
Same
I think it's Millar. I thought.
I think it's Millar, yeah. But it doesn't matter. I say Millar all the time.
He said when he was writing Ultimates, he said, I got drunk in a bar once and wrote the script on a napkin and gave it to my artist. So it runs the gamut of there's no set way to do this.
Right. And it also depends on the artist. I imagine he probably had faith that
Brian Hitch.
Brian Hitch, would probably get what he meant and things like that.
So
that probably helped, but yeah.
Yeah. So I'll say this is something that I'll just kind of tease a little bit here, just for the 20 people who will watch this. Really good, but in all seriousness, thank you for the 20 people who do watch this. Thank you, and like and subscribe. I knew one Alex thing, and Alex has really cool things. Yeah, I wish I had that, man. Teach me the ways, sir. Teach me the ways. I can say that I'll tease that I can understand a little bit of what they're saying.
Yeah.
But to come with your point, Dennis, you brought up a great point, and kind of what you're referring to what Alex was saying. There is no set way of writing comic books, and what's so cool about the medium is that you can do it so many different ways. And like you talked about, Alex, that like again, you did it almost like a Marvel style after the fact. Like, I can add more. I mean, this is
and I didn't even know that was going to happen.
You didn't.
When I got the art back with the words on it, I'm like,
inspired you.
Like it would sound better, slightly different than this.
Yeah. And it made it better. And that's the thing about comic books. And I always said that, what I like about creating comic books is a lot like creating music. Or with a band, is that the collaboration. I love that about comic books. I love that. And one of the things that you brought up, Dennis, is that there's no fine way, no real way, finite way to do creating comic books. Legendary writer Dennis O'Neil, which I can see if I can find the book here. Let's see. This is like the top shelf. It's like my guide to doing comic books or some, some weird way. I'm trying to find the book exactly. Gosh darn it, where is it? This is why I need to be more prepared, but I'm not. I refuse to be organized, damn it. I can't find it. But anyway, regardless.
That's
Dennis
funny.
O'Neil.
I have that same Fantastic Four Superman. You never hear about it either, but I have that issue. I like that issue.
Hell yeah, dude.
Yeah.
Dennis, we're gonna talk about it. We're gonna talk about it one day. Don't worry. We're gonna talk about this stuff. Dude, I tell you, we're gonna go on the Guinness Book of World Records, and we're gonna say what's the longest conversation recorded for comic book talking. And me and Alex like, we got this.
Yeah, we'll go power into 16 hours on that.
I'm just like, read Spencer, Alex. Read Spencer.
Exactly.
Like, okay. No, but Dennis O'Neil said, Denny O'Neil, whatever you want to call him. He said that, like he said himself, the best thing about comics is that there's no real way of doing it. And he said it himself. He just said there's any way you can do it and get it done is the right way.
Right.
So whatever you feel is right. And there's so many different ways. Like he showed an example of Scott McCloud, and Keith Giffen also did this too, where they would basically storyboard like kind of what you did, Alex. They would draw it a very rough outline to give the artist. And again, that makes things pretty quick if the artist is cool with it.
Yeah.
Kind of your point too, also, Dennis, a great thing about Mark Millar. He said, I got drunk and I wrote it on a napkin. And like you said too, Alex, that when you have a phenomenal artist like Brian Hitch, you can do that. You can kind of say, here's, again, Marvel style. Hey, give me 20 pages of this and I'll dialogue it out. That's fine.
Yeah.
And if you know where the story's going and you're confident in the characters' voices, you can do that. What I think is funny though is I was listening to a Word Balloon podcast. I'm sure a lot of us who listen watching the show right now or on this podcast have listened to Word Balloon at least some point or on the regular basis. I listened to it quite a bit. Dave Gibbons was on there last year, and this is during the pandemic. We're still in the pandemic, but when we're the height of the pandemic, where everyone's kind of interviewing and whatever. And Dave Gibbons, God bless him, I love that guy. That guy is a phenomenal talent, and it seems like a real good dude. They were talking about I think Tom King and him were kind of interviewing each other, and it was a great conversation, like an hour conversation about creating comic books. And he said that when you're an artist, one of the hardest things for him to do was that when you're drawing a book that you didn't really like. So like he'd be drawing a book like this is not a good story, right? Your point, Dennis, where it's like this guy just shoved it on a napkin, like, here you go, draw this. And it's like, and he said, but I'm going to quote as best I can, but I quote, he said, it was hard for me to like slave away at a comic when I knew that this was probably written in the afternoon over for an hour, and like just kind of here, and I'm like, damn, I didn't even think about that, but he's not wrong. I mean, think about that. Like a lot of these writers, they probably were doing multiple books and, getting paid. And the reason why I bring that up too, Alex, is because of your show, your phenomenal interviewers with Jim Shooter. He talked about Bill Mantlo. I love Bill Mantlo. Yeah. Bill Mantlo was kind of doing that basically. He basically like, oh yeah, I'm just here's an hour and then here you go. And it was like, it wasn't very good. And then like Jim called him out, like, dude, this sucks. Like, you don't give us this, we already paid me, so it doesn't matter. It's like, damn.
That's cool. You memorized this interview. That's awesome.
I didn't memorize. I have a weird memory. I couldn't tell. I mean, here's the deal. I didn't go to college and I'm like as dumb as a rock, but I could tell you what I Jim Shooter interview, no problem. Cause I love comic books. Anyway,
no, you're not dumb. You're clearly very intelligent, but yeah, it was interesting about Bill Mantlo. He also then said that Bill Mantlo was like, he could just create characters on the fly. Like,
amazing. Yeah.
Like that's amazing. Pretty awesome. Just boom. This guy's name is that. This is what he does. Boom.
White Tiger, Rocket Raccoon. I mean, come on. Yeah. Mantlo's he's a legend, dude. Dude, Bill. You see, this is a problem, Alex. We just go on. All it takes is one. All it takes is one. Just really quickly, and this will be maybe our first episode together. We'll do, and Dennis, you're invited to join us. But we'll do a Bill Mantlo appreciation episode.
There you go.
That dude is not appreciated enough, and I'm being serious because
Well, after his accident, like he just kind of disappeared from the conversation, honestly.
Yeah, he had to, because he's mentally not capable of doing it. I mean, it was just sad, because I work. Gosh, we're doing it again. God damn. Alex. Oh God.
But I would say something that kind of helped me as far as pacing a story a little bit was I do just as a hobby before this, is animate motion comics, and I've animated about I think 7 of them, and they started with like kind of dinky things, and then it got more and more elaborate with animation. And so when I was animating a lot, and I like animating Steve Ditko's public domain stuff the most. But when I was animating that, I kind of figured out kind of like if you pace it a certain way, then it's at least interesting enough to want to finish the story. And I think that, and then when I was started to like write some of the dialogue of some of those motion comics or the later ones, then I thought, oh, I kind of want to, like, instead of just animate other people's stuff, I want to just write something. So that was a little bit of a pre-writing thing that I did, but at least as far as storytelling, but still definitely fresh as far as writing a script. In fact, the first 6 pages wasn't even in script format. I actually drew stick figures of the first 6 pages with and then wrote in each box what I wanted. And that was my first 6 pages. And I showed it to Sebastian. He's like, okay, no problem. It's like, okay, cool. And then I was like, well, I think for the rest of it, I should probably write a real script then. And so then I learned that later. So everything was just kind of, you just learn by doing, like Dennis said, you just do it, figure it out.
You guys are crazy, man. Because I wink, wink, people. When I try to do that stuff, I wanted to see where, kind of, I needed to have a guide of where do I start with that. And I went, there's lots of great guides out there, but kind of like what you guys said, you just got to do it. I mean, anything you want to do, you guys have to do it, whether, because you're going to suck at it at first.
Yeah.
And also one thing to remember. Yeah. But one thing to remember also, Paul, is not to, don't be afraid to, I guess, change your style. Just as a point of example, when I wrote my first script for my comic, it was, all dialogue, full, all panels fully described. Everything was there and present. My second script was more like, general, panel descriptions, and kind of blah, 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 what the dialogue would be. And then something I've done recently was basically just panel description. I gave to my artist, and he was able to fulfill, what I wanted. So it's don't be afraid to change with what feels best.
No, totally. So, man, we're always balling out, man. I could go on this forever. So we'll try to wrap up a little bit here, because I just, like I said, I don't trust myself at all, because I'll just keep going. So man, I gotta praise the artist for me. I love comic books, but I need to be more diverse in what I read, as far as like what kind of comics I read. Because I love the mainstream stuff, because I grew up on it. I have an affinity for it, so I'm naturally going to be drawn more to those kind of stories. But your artist, you telling me that he had establishing a career as a comic artist in Argentina, all of that, I was really impressed with the art. Like, I remember being like, damn, this art is like legit, and not just like, again, and I don't know if you've listened to me on podcasts before at all, Alex, but when I do these podcasts, one thing I always tell artists or tell people about comic books is that you can be a phenomenal artist, but it doesn't make you a good comic book artist.
No, it doesn't.
You got to be a good storyteller.
I've actually heard you. Yeah, you actually do a lot of stuff. You're all over the place. Actually.
I guess.
You don't just do one thing. That's what's interesting.
Yeah, I'm all over the place. That's
sure.
Which is true. It's true. It's true.
But it's true. There's something about what I liked about him was I wanted it. He just nailed it in a way that exceeded my expectations, actually, because he was able to like find, like, he can make the guy look almost like a cartoon, but badass too. Like,
no, yeah.
Like this is not a.
I got your back. I'll let me bring it up here. I'll get you. I got your back.
Yeah.
Like this is like that looks. So this is what I was saying earlier about how this is why I love about your book, man. And your artist is a big part of it. I mean, your story is great. It's super fun. But
Thank you.
this is a phenomenal, like this is both ridiculous. Now, I don't mean that in a bad way.
Yeah,
This
I
is
know.
so ridiculous, but so amazing at the same. This looks phenomenal. Like,
Yeah,
it's
I know what
great.
you mean. Like
great.
it's just enough. It's like fantastic. Like, is this really happening? But then it's
Yes.
convincing. Like
yes,
he's not a joke. Like the character's like, he's a force to be reckoned with.
Mhm.
And that was another thing is I wanted the character, like the hat, the poncho, people wear that on Cinco de Mayo as a joke, but I wanted it to be like a
legit.
symbol of strength, like
Yeah.
a badass wears this is
Yeah.
what it is.
No. And this again, the storytelling in this one page alone is just, and again, this is simple, but it's so perfect. Because look, you have the overlapping of the page of the two panels right there.
Yeah.
I mean, I freaking love that. Like, it's and that's the thing. Like, I thought was so impressive is that it didn't feel like, again, it didn't feel like an amateur like comic book. Like, again, and there's don't get me wrong. I'm not trying to say there's nothing wrong with people who are learning, but it's just felt like a legit, like, oh my God, this is like a legit comic. Like, this is like so much fun. And like, it felt like the storytelling was so good. And obviously he's the, the big brains behind that. But I mean, like, look at, like, this is great, man.
Yeah. Like, that character, because there were two mythological, creatures from Mexico, but when El Fuego's fighting them, I like this idea of one of the creatures bumping into another, and because they're made out of this other dimensional dark matter, that the dark matter like fuses into this like freakish hulking monster. And I just thought, and before this is the double page splash, and Sebastian just did this great, like, this punch match, like just straight up WWE, like like straight, like guys in costumes just pounding at each other. Action right before this, and this is like the crescendo where the guitar flies back into his hand and he just smashes him in the neck, and then he splits into the two things and then sends him back to hell. There's a little
Alex, I did have one question. So Gargoza, right?
Yeah.
So was there a Wendigo influence going on? Because I noticed there was one part where he was like Gargoza. I was like Wendigo. But
yeah, there's I would say I loved Wendigo as a kid when Alpha Flight and when the X-Men fought him, and then he fought the Hulk in Wolverine's first appearance, and I liked Wendigo. I wanted this. It's funny. I thought, like, what would be the name? I was thinking about that in my head of this gargoyle hulking creature, and then I thought, I want it to be like, but I don't want a name that's taken. And then it has to be like, Central American kind of name, because that's a made up character. Gargoza.
Yeah.
But then I thought, what about Gargoza? Yes. And then because I Demigorgon.
Were you watching Ghostbusters?
So then Gargoza, hell yeah. And then I was like Gargoza, and I was like Gargoza. Like I heard it in my head, and then I thought, oh yeah, I'm just gonna make that the only thing he says, and then
great.
Then I was like, this kind of reminds me of Wendigo. Like, that occurred to me later, actually.
Really? Okay. Yeah. All right.
That's cool.
Right on.
Cool.
Yeah, it was fun. Those are the two original characters, El Fuego and Gargoza. Everyone else is like either a mythological character or a historical figure or something. And that's why I wanted their fight to be special, because these are like my two homies, I wanted their fight to like be like Pam,
Yeah. I gotta say, and I again, I DM you this, and you don't know me that well, Alex, not yet anyway. But and Dennis, you've seen me online for a while, and I try to be as true as I can, and I don't BS people. It's not my game. And I remember telling you, like, you need to get this out to like kids, like, or in because it was, again, when I read it, it was so refreshing to read something so fun that wasn't
cool.
again, because when you think of independent comics, you think of like super sexualized, which again, nothing wrong with that, but like you think of like Turtles, you know, like the black and white, like rah, you know, and again, I love black and white comics, but like again, there's a seriousness, like a dark edge, or you know, whatever. And then I go read your book, and it's just like the most fun comic I've read in like forever. Like straight up,
awesome.
like
Thanks.
just,
I wanted to feel fresh and positive. I wanted to pop. Popping was important to me. The fun thing was like when zombies suddenly just appear out of nowhere. And what I love about that is, you know, I liked Army of Darkness, and I love those kind of, you know, zombie things. And I thought, well, who would be the dead bodies? Who would be the animated corpses? And I was like, oh, well, there was a Spanish, you know, Mexican war like a year before this starts. So how about all those dead soldiers? Just reanimate them. And then there's this whole thing about animation of the dead being one of these weird supernatural dark things. So I thought, okay, I can mix this in. And then, it was just a lot of fun. Like I wanted to play with zombies. I wanted to, you know, I wanted to just be like somewhat unpredictable. Like what the hell, there's zombies now, you know, but I wanted to still kind of make sense.
It was great. It was great. I love how he took out the zombie too. That was really cool.
Oh yeah, with the guitar.
He just blew him away with music. That was awesome.
He did. He was like, "Listen closely, my friends." Boom.
So everyone, you know, go out and pick up this book. I mean, I was telling Dennis, I think before when I was getting the show kind of, you know, worked on and everything, I said, Dennis, like, get this for your kids, man. Like, this is like something your kids would love.
Thank you. Yeah,
so much fun. And like, I said it to my friend, almost revealed the secret. My friend Antonio, I said, man, you should. I sent it to him. I think he bought it too. I think he showed it to his daughter. I'm pretty sure. Showed my wife. You know, she hadn't read it yet, but she thought it was really cool.
My friends that they've shown it to their kids. What I found interesting was like they were like, okay, I'll get around to it, and they got around to it. They read it and they enjoyed it. But their kids, they read it like that day, like the whole thing.
So
like
rad.
Like the kids like that were like from 8 to like 12, like they just like boom, like they knocked it out that day, you know.
So rad.
And at the end there's a little bit of a thing where like one of my friends, his kid like was like so engulfed in the character that he was actually sad, like he actually cried that it was kind of over and stuff. Like he felt connected to that kid in the story, and I was like, man, that's cool. Like I didn't you know, there was always an intent of like maybe continuing the story. We'll see. I have some ideas. There's more figures from you know, the next generation of events in Mexico that can be put in. The idea of, you know, T-Hax Tabaris as a teenager, and you know, kind of dealing with what comes next. And you know, there's still like a loose end at the end of the story, as far as
Roy Thomas is still out there.
What was that?
Roy Thomas. Remember I DM'd you? I'm like, is this supposed to be Roy Thomas?
That's not him, I promise. And it's not Roy Thomas. The guy kind of looks like him, but he's actually not based on. He's based on the real guy from history.
I know. I told you that. I said you didn't pick up on it earlier. I mentioned. I said Roy Thomas, and you kind of. I don't know if you heard it, but
no. But it wasn't based on him. It just happened to look. The artist drew him, and it kind of looks like him. But that was not.
I know.
But in real life, you know, that's kind of what happened. Like the bad guy kind of got away with it in a way, and so you know there's still that loose end to kind of play around with for next story. So we'll see. It all just kind of depends. I don't know how Dennis feels about it, but making a comic and make, you know, from A to Z, and then getting it print worthy and connected everywhere, and you know, then it doesn't quite fit, and you have to make it fit. Then I had to do things with the art, like the outer 5%. I actually had to do stuff with the outer 5% to make everything fit. And you can't tell, but there's like 6 weeks of getting everything right.
Wow.
Just to print worthy. That it kind of aged me. I mean, in a bad sort of way, but but it's stressful, and it gets you tired. Like, I don't know. We'll see. That innocent creative feeling, you know, has to be there in the beginning, and then just knowing what it's going to take, and it's a process. It makes you tired. I'm glad it's done though, but but it makes you tired.
I can attest. I can attest to that. My first Amazon proof came back, and the panels were like right at the cut of the page, and I was like,
Yeah,
how did that happen? It looked, it looked so good in the the digital preview.
that's right.
So I had to go back and mess with that for like 2 weeks before I get. So yeah,
That's right. Yeah,
totally
I
get
had to
it.
do that too, and like I had to like kind of fill in. I had to like almost contract it a bit, and then fill that stuff in just in case it makes it onto the printer. There has to be something that still looks nice, and so I had to actually add like 5 to 10% of peripheral art to every single page. That took a while,
Yeah.
but I'm. It was a great process as far as learning and figuring it out, and knowing what goes into actually getting it printable now does change actually the way I would conceptualize it initially.
Oh yeah.
But luckily, everything worked out the way it did. But there were certain things I certainly would do a second time around to make the end stuff easier.
Mm-hmm.
Before we leave, Dennis, do you want to ask him anything or talk about anything before we go with our friend Alex here?
No, I just want to reiterate. I think this is an excellent story. To Paul's point earlier, I think it's great. It'd be great for kids. I can totally see this fitting in any scholastic program in school and being offered in school
100%.
libraries.
Cool.
Entertaining. It teaches you history. I think it's totally meant for that. I mean, I don't know how you make that happen, but I mean, I think
I did submit it. I did. The way I did actually, what I have done is shared it with libraries, and quite a few of them actually got copies of it. And then there's this one, and then there's some like Latinx programs that actually have it in their library now. So I have actually been able to connect it with some places. So that's worked out pretty good. And then people just buy them because I have the trailers. I did the motion comic trailer.
Those are cool.
And then I have that playing on YouTube, and that certainly helps. And then on Instagram, I have that video going too, and things like that. So that just drums up just casual interest. But I did target like libraries and things like that already, and that
cool.
They were way more open to it than I expected, which was pretty cool.
Just for the record,
it's good to hear.
Yeah, Scholastic needs to get on that right now. Like, I'm not saying that because you're here. I was telling my wife this. I'm like, dude, I said, I referenced your name. Trey has no idea who you are, but I'm like, Alex needs to get out there and put it on, like, start shopping it out to those places, man. Because
I actually did submit it to ISBN number and like to Scholastic. They have a few different input areas that I did that on, so yeah. But I haven't heard anything otherwise. I do know that I can see when the orders go through on my end. And I do know that when I was doing that, there was quite a few that did go through, but I don't know if it was connected to that or not.
I'll just say this. I was at a random bookstore, an independent bookstore by my house, which is obviously very rare these days, but they had graphic novels they had a graphic novel section, which I'll do a show and tell on a future live stream. Maybe I'll drag Alex on there if his wife will let me have him on soon. But there was a kid section for graphic novels, and Scholastic had some stuff on there, and I was like, okay, again, a world that I don't see yet because my daughter is only 1 year old, but I happened to be in the kids section, so I was like, oh, there's obviously Dogman's huge. I know Dogman peripherally just a little bit. He's a giant comic book. Again, comic books are alive and well, but in different. Not just Marvel, they're outside of Marvel and DC, right? But
yeah, of course.
When I was out there, I was looking at Scholastic had a number of graphic novels, and I'm looking through it, and no disrespect to the people doing it, but I'm like, it was fine. It didn't grab me. And again, I'm 39 years old. What the hell do I know, right? For kids, but I'm a kid at heart, damn it. And I can tell you right now, I'm looking at them like, this is fine, but it's not grabbing me. But your stuff grabs, and I mean that. Like, I mean, I as a kid, if I had like this really kind of dark, muted, like fantasy looking comic that's like on, whatever. It's like, okay, that looks fine. But then I have like a dude with a sombrero with a freaking flaming guitar, like with flaming eyes. I'm like, it's blowing the hell up with bright colors. I'm like going, come on. I mean,
yeah, thanks. That's awesome.
No, seriously.
That was kind of the thing. I wanted it to be like pop with something fun,
Oh, it pops. And that's why I'm saying these kid companies, they put that out there on a mass market. In my opinion, I think it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer in my opinion.
Yeah,
so
I think so. Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I was like, yeah, show me the money, guys.
I'm with you.
Yeah, dude, Alex, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me on. This was fun.
This is awesome. Yeah, I mean, like I said, like we've been talking so much on Twitter that I'm like, I just like, I'm like, I need to get him on at some point. But I felt like I wanted you on, you to really promote your work because I thought it was great.
Thanks.
And as we go, and I was champion Dennis for getting his work done. I champion you. I'm a champion both of you, especially you, Alex, because you said, right now you obviously got a lot going on with your family and everything. But I just want to encourage you to keep writing comics, man, because I think whether it's, the Mexico story or the whatever stories you have, I just want you to see you create, man, because I think you got it. I think you understand the medium totally. And so, and I just would, again, I'm not saying you have to rush out there right now and bust your ass for it, but but what I mean by that is don't kill yourself over it. But honestly,
I do enjoy like thinking like what would have a visual kick, what'll visually kick somebody and that's a fun process and trying to come up with something that'll just visually kick people.
Yeah, no, I would be ashamed if you didn't do more work, man. So just know that, like,
I appreciate that.
As a comic book, as Dennis has said, and I have said, it's great. I think you should keep working at it. Whatever, again, big, small, just keep working, man. I think you've got talent, and I think you should keep going. So keep your podcast and YouTube going. I mean, obviously you got crazy stuff going there, but create yourself.
No, thank you.
Create more comics.
That's awesome. I appreciate it. So that's very kind.
I mean every word of every word, man. So tell us, where can people follow you on all your escapades?
Yeah. So the Comic Book Historians Facebook group, and my co-host on the podcast, Jim, is also a moderator on there, and I admin that this Comic Book Historians Facebook group. There's a lot of just conversations all the time happening there. Then there is the Facebook page, the Twitter, and all that, and the YouTube channel is where I really do a lot of my my docuseries, comic history docuseries videos. I just put out my 60th one, and they I think are very informative. I think if people watch those history videos, like you'll know comics history, honestly. And then the interviews, you can get that on the Comic Book Historians podcast as well as the YouTube channel. But that's basically where I'm found. And thank you for having me on. This was a real pleasure. It was kind of nice to, not to just show up to something. Yeah.
No, it's cool, man, because I admire, like, just, again, we'll have a show where we talk about the podcast, because that's obviously where you kind of started as far as all that stuff goes. And it's fascinating how it's grown. And so we could spend hours talking about that, obviously, too, so we'll get you back on.
I appreciate it. Yeah.
This would be awesome.
Yeah. Dennis, happy to be here. This is a great show. I actually enjoy it. I like how casual it is. I find it very refreshing.
It's a little too casual probably for a lot of people, but whatever.
It's great. It's great.
I appreciate it. Dennis, my faithful co-host. Again, we're on the second episode. Thanks again. I appreciate you showing up. You didn't bail on me. I appreciate it. Which is not. Well, I mean, what I mean by that is, like, just I appreciate the fact you want to keep doing it. This is awesome. I'm fast at work on the next episode. I've already kind of reached out to a couple people or one kind of group, and so I'm hoping to get the next episode lined up. And it just, if you're out there, and Alex, spread the word. You probably have some connections out there, and Dennis, you've got some people potentially. If you're out there and you want us to promote your work, email me, please, or message me on Twitter at Herman22 or at the Comic Binge, Binge Comic Twitter. Just message me. I want to promote your work. I want to promote the medium of comic books, and if there's one thing I can do, and is help people, one or two people, like, get in this more massive world of comic books and just kind of learn to love and support independent books, then I've done my job. So if you're out there and you want to promote your stuff, please contact me. I want to, I'll do my best. And again, reach out to me. I want to promote people's work. So if you know people, or if you are a creator, hit me up, and me and Dennis will, give us, let us know give us your stuff, and we'll read it, and we'll talk about it, and we'll have you on, and we'll have a blast. But Dennis, so where can people find your lovely stuff at?
So right now, I mainly operate out of Twitter. So at October Comics, that's me. I'm probably going to expand to Instagram pretty soon to kind of promote Great Detective stuff there. I got a TikTok account. Don't use it that much. Gonna try and
TikTok.
yeah. I don't know. It's kind of a younger person's medium, I think. But plan to try to use that to promote the comic book as well. But for right now, Twitter is my main spot at Comics.
Right on, man. And you can find me on Twitter at Herman22 with 2 N's, aka P Thug. Also find me this channel on Twitter at Binge Comic. And please, I don't say this enough, I probably should do it more, is please like and subscribe. Like, I wish I had Alex's like little cool things you could do. Bing. Yeah, Bing. I don't have those. I'm not that intuitive. Maybe I'm too lazy. I don't know. But no, please like and subscribe, comment, and support, Dennis and Alex's books, man. Like, seriously, go out there. It's not, we're not asking to, spend like hundreds of dollars on this stuff. It's like, seriously, support local artists or artists, independent artists, whatever. And that's what matters, and supporting each other. And that's how we do and get by in this world. Right. So, yeah, but please, follow me on Twitter and, subscribe to the channel. And again, thank you all. And as always, read more comics. So goodbye, everybody.